Hello, this is Vicky from the Spellbound Bead Company, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this Union Jack bunting necklace. It's made using 2-drop brick stitch, which is a simple variation on regular brick stitch. If you've not done brick stitch before, you can find videos on our YouTube channel on how to do this, but you should be able to pick it up fairly quickly from the video. I've got 3 colours of delicas. You'll be surprised to discover they're red, white and blue. I personally like using the opaque finish beads, but there's nothing to stop you using a silver lined or one of the semi-matte silver lines. That can be quite nice because it will just be less bold, so you can be a bit more subtle. Of course, you can make the flags in any combination of colours that you want. You can leave off the flag. The flag in the centre is slightly larger to fit the Union Jack design on, but you can do that just as a plain flag that's a larger size if you want to. I've also got some 4mm rounds. These are used to connect the flags together. I've got an 18-inch chain, although I am going to cut into this, so if you've got a shorter chain that will work as well. I've got a pair of scissors. I've got a pair of wire cutters for cutting the chain later in the video. I've got, for the first flag, I've got about 1 metre of thread and a size 10 needle. I've also gone ahead and tied the keeper bead about 15-20 centimetres from the end of the thread. So let me show you how to make a flag. We're going to start, as we do with any brick stitch project, with a row of ladder stitch. So this time round, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the beads in pairs. So 2 beads for each stitch. So I've got 2 for the first stitch, 2 for the second stitch there. And I'm going to bring those down to the keeper bead, and I'm going to go through the first 2, and that will bring the 2 sets of beads to sit side by side. I'm then going to go back down through the second pair, whoops, there, and that's our first 2 sets of beads added. I'm going to repeat this so that I've got 7 pairs of beads to sit across the top, and this will be the top row on the flag. So we'll do that. So we'll pick up 2 and we'll go down through 2 and up. Now, because I haven't got an awful lot to hold on to here, my thumb is likely to be in the way, so I do apologise. But if you just hold the rest of your beads reasonably firmly in your fingers, it'll just stop them wobbling about and make for a nice even start to your row. So that's 5. 6. Whoops. And that's 7. I've counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs of beads ladder stitched together for the first row of brick stitch. Now the next row, we're going to come in by half a step. So what I like to do is just hook under that thread, just so that I'm starting in the right place. It's not essential to do, but it's just a habit I've got into, and it seems to give me a slightly smarter edge than if you just come out of the thread and join across. You don't get a gap. So again, brick stitch. So for the first stitch of the row, I'm picking up 2 sets of beads. So if we think of each pair as 1 stitch, I've got 2 stitches there. I'm going to go through under the thread, the next thread along, pull that down so they sit side by side, and go up through, back through that second pair of beads that we've just added there. And you can see they're sitting side by side, or they were till I poke them, and there's a little indent on this side where the row's moved in slightly. So the next 2 beads I pick up and I go under the thread, Move that, I've just caught that with the end of my thread. And up, and on this row of beads, we're adding this row of work rather, we're adding 6 pairs of beads. So you'll find the way to hold the work that works for you. You might prefer to work left to right every time. You can turn your work over, particularly for these small triangles, because these are the same in any direction. You might prefer to work with the beads held towards you. You'll find the way of working that you're comfortable with. Okay, so that's 4, so 2 more pairs. There, that's the last set of beads for this row. So again, I'm just going to loop under that thread on the end there, and then start the next row by picking up 2 pairs of beads. And now this row, because we're decreasing again, this row is only going to have 5 stitches on it, 5 sets of beads. So as you can see, because these are quite small, the actual individual flags work up quite quickly. So if you've got a spare half hour or so and you've just got time to do something small, this is a great thing to do. Okay, and the last stitch. So we'll go under the thread and back through. And again, reposition the thread. 2 pairs for the first stitch. And this time we're adding 4 stitches. So just take your time and make sure that the beads are sitting where you want them to. Okay, so 2 more rows to go. So you can see it's getting that nice long triangle shape, and that's why we're using 2 drop brick stitch rather than single brick stitch, because single brick stitch would have given us more of an equilateral triangle rather than a longer triangle. There we go, there's my lack of maths knowledge, geometry knowledge showing. I'm going to add the 3 this time. And there. Okay, and then we're going to add the last row of 2 drops here. So we're going to pick up the 4 beads and come up and through there. And then just to add the point to the bottom of the triangle here, I'm just going to pick up 1 more bead, and I'm coming out of the right hand side here, so I'm going to go into the left and down into the row that's below as I'm looking at the work here. And there you can see you've got your complete triangle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off the working thread. just tying a knot there. Now, I've obviously used a white thread here. You can, if you want to, match the thread to the flags individually. So you could use a blue thread on the blue, red on the red, etc. But for the sake of the video, it's the white shows up as a better contrast. If you want to, if this thread colour here bothers you, you can just get a marker pen, a permanent marker, something like a Sharpie or something like that, and just run it over the threads, and that will colour the thread, and then you won't be able to see that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to make some more flags, and then I'll come back to show you, to talk you through the union flag, and then to show you how to connect them all together. Okay, so I've got all 6 of my little triangles made. So all that's left to do now is to make the Union Jack to go in the middle. Now there is a PDF download for this. Again, it's made in brick stitch, 2-drop brick stitch. The thing you need to be aware of here is the pattern isn't symmetrical, because the Union Jack isn't a symmetrical flag, just to add an extra level of excitement to our beadwork. So as you can hopefully see, the top row, the foundation row of the flag here, has a blue and a white on this end, and a blue and a red on this end, and on this side the red is sitting on the top, and on this side the white's sitting on the top. So it's important when you make this triangle that you check your working matches the grid. So if you do turn over your work at the end of every row, if you particularly prefer to work in one direction, then make sure that if you read the first row left to right and then turn your work over, you read the next row right to left, so that you've got the stripes matching. Otherwise you will end up with a bit of a jumble, which isn't quite what we're looking for. So what I shall do is I'll get started on this triangle, and then I will come back and I will show you how to put it all together. So if I fold that to keep the grid in shot, let's move my beads down so we can see it here. So what you'll find is on this one, some of the stitches are single colours and some of the stitches are different colours. In each bead in the stitch is a different colour. So because this triangle is slightly larger, I've got about 1.5 meters of thread this time, and again I've tied the keeper bead about 15 centimetres or so from the end of your thread. I forgot to mention it before, but leave a longer tail. If you would normally leave a shorter tail, we are going to use these for stitching the triangles together at the end, so just bear that in mind. So we're going to start on the top row of the grid here. So I'm going to pick up a white, a blue, a blue, a blue, and we'll bring all those down to the start of the grid, to the keeper bead, and we'll put those on and come back through the next 2. And then you can see here I've got 2 blue pairs, a white, red, white, 3 blue pairs, and then a red and blue pair, a blue and red pair at the end. So we'll just work our way across that row. So that's the blue, and then we've got white, then red. So this red stripe here is the centre of the triangle, then white, then 3 sets of blue, this 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we're coming out at the bottom of the row. So this time round, we need to thread on the red one first. Let's bring that back into shot, sorry. Thread on the red one first, then the blue one. So red, then blue, and stitch that in place. And then we're going to reposition the needle for the next row. Like so. And then this time we're going to work back this way. And so we're going to start with picking up a red, a white, a red and a blue, because you need to pick those up so they sit correctly when you stitch the finish the stitch. So we're picking up a red, a white, a red and a blue. And then we will come under that thread bridge as before and through, and then just check your beads against your grid and then pick up the next two. I'm going to keep doing this all the way down until we get to the bottom of the grid. So the technique is exactly the same. It just, you might be working a little bit slower because you're going to have to check the colour of your beads in every stitch. So what I shall do is I shall get this triangle made, and then I'll come back and I will show you how to connect everything together into the final necklace. So as you can see, I've got all 7 of my triangles stitched here now, the Union Jack one in the middle. Now for this to be correct, you need to make sure that the white diagonal is on the top left of the design, so as it's looking at me, which means when I'm wearing it, it will be in the correct position as well. I'm going to connect these triangles together just using a 4mm gold round. So I'm just popping those out there, which that one's an odd one, and that one there. And we're going to stitch these together and then we'll attach the chain to either side of the necklace. So what I've done is I've finished off the working thread and I've reattached my needle to the keeper bead, the tail thread that we left at the beginning of the flag. And I'm going to pick up the 4mm gold round and I'm going to stitch up through the 2 beads on the end of the top row of that next flag along. Now I've laid these out red, white, blue, Union Jack, blue, white, red, because I like symmetry. There's nothing to stop you having it red, white, blue, red, white, blue. You can mix and match them in any combination that you choose, but I'm not very good with things that aren't regular repeating patterns, so that's why mine are laid out the way they are. So I've gone up through there, I've come back through the 4mm round, I'm going back through the stitch that we came out of to start with. So we've got like an X shape of thread sitting inside that bead. Now there's only a single thread there, and with this being a metal bead, there is the chance that it could be a bit tight. So I'm just going to repeat that thread path, and I'm going to do that twice. So you've got three pieces of thread running through just to make it nice and secure. Oops. Be careful you don't pull these too tight. You want them to be sitting side by side rather than at a particularly sharp angle. So we'll just go through. Somebody's moved the hole in my beads. Just go through these one last time. There. And then what I'm going to do with this thread is I'm going to work it across the top row, so that the thread's coming out the other side of the triangle. And this is why it's important to leave a slightly longer thread. All fingers and thumbs. Yeah. And then we'll do the same thing on this other side. I think I've left enough thread there. So again, we'll pick up the full mill round and the next triangle along. And come back through. Just make sure that other tail thread's out of the way. And because this thread's getting a tiny bit short now, it's just going to get caught a little bit more on the triangles. Okay, through there, and then just up into triangle one last time. Check you're happy with how it's sitting, and then we'll work this tail thread in and trim it off. So I'll do that one in a second. So as you can see, I've now got a tail thread on each side to connect the next triangle to, and if you do it this way, it means you shouldn't have to add in any extra thread, and you also have the threads on either end for connecting to the chain. So I'll connect up the rest of the flags, and then I'll come back and I will show you how to trim your chain and to connect your bunting string to the chain. Okay, so that's my set of flags all hanging together. And so now all we need to do is attach the chain to either side of your necklace so that you can wear it. What I'm going to do is I've got an 18-inch chain here, and I'm going to attach it to either side, but because this is about 3 inches long, I don't want to attach it because I don't want the necklace to be quite that long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a section of the chain just out of the middle, because I'm lazy and it means I don't have to undo or redo the chain on this end. Obviously, if you're working from a length of chain, then you can just cut it to the length you want. So all I'm going to do is just hold that in my fingers. Try not to bring my pliers with me. Take a pair of wire cutters and just cut straight through the links and put that to one side. That'll come in handy for another project in the future. And now I'm going to connect it to the bunting in exactly the same way. Things to bear in mind are the direction that your chain's sitting in. So I'm right-handed, so I want the clasp to be on the right-hand side of the necklace when I'm wearing it. So which is this side here as the necklace is looking at me. So I'm just going to make sure that the clasp is going to be in my right hand. Obviously, if you're left-handed, you can have it the other way around. You can have it however you want. You can adjust the length. You could add beads up the length of the chain if you wanted to as well. And then I'm just going to connect this to the chain in a similar way to the way I've connected the flags together. So I'm picking up a 4mm round, and then I'm going through the link on the end of the chain. I'm going to go back into the round and up through the chain, through the beads on the edge of the flag. And I'm going to repeat this 3 or 4 times, as many times as I can, until the delicate beads start to get difficult to pass through, because I want this to be a nice secure link, because obviously this is what's going to hold the whole side of the necklace together. But I don't want to risk breaking any beads, because that's very frustrating and it means you'd have to do the work again. So we'll do that. So I think I'll leave it there. So we'll finish this thread end off. We'll come down through a few beads into this flag. Obviously, as I said at the beginning of the video, if you want to use a colour of thread that matches each individual triangle, you can. For the purposes of the video, I just grab some white thread. So that's the one end done. And then I'll do the second end. Here, and we'll just do the same thing on this end of the chain. So through the link on the end. You can, if you prefer, if you want a bit more flexibility between the flags, you could actually stitch a soldered jump ring onto either side of the bunting, the flags, and connect them together with jump rings, which will give you a bit more movement between the individual pennants. But I wanted something a little bit sturdier, so we'll do it. I've chosen to do it this way. Okay, so there we go. That's my last connection there. So we'll come down through a few more rows. Back on myself there, and finish off that thread. And there you can see with our flags looking like they're waving in the wind, we have our Jubilee Union Jack bunting necklace. I hope you enjoy making it. If you have any questions, get in touch. We'd love to see what you make on our social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Happy beading, and see you again soon.